Article 42 of the Treaty on the European Union, as amended by the Lisbon Treaty, basically states that member states of the European Union will be obliged to progressively improve their military capabilities. Now, as a neutral country, why would this be necessary? And this is an obligation on us if we pass the treaty.
Well, I think you have to look at what is actually meant by that. I mean, for example, if you recall, when the mission was being sent to Chad, one of the issues which arose was the lack of helicopter cover for the people who were going to be going on that mission. I think what is meant by Article 42 is that the European Union, if it is engaging in missions of peacekeeping or peacemaking, that it will have the capacity to deliver on it. But at the end of the day, and again we have to remember this in relation to all defence matters, all matters relating to defence have to be agreed by unanimity, and all decisions on defence have to respect the constitutional position of individual member states, which is code for respecting the neutrality of countries like Ireland and Austria.
Well, a common defence pact is, of course, a referendum is needed, of course, but it does state that the obligation is under the guidance of the European Defence Agency, which is an organisation which is going to become legally recognised in this treaty, that under their guidance and guidelines we will actually have to fulfil the objectives that they set down for us. Is this not so?
No, we do not have to. There is recognition in the European Treaty in all matters relating to defence. There is recognition of, as it's called, the constitutional position of certain member states. That means, in practice, respecting the neutrality of countries like Ireland and of Austria. So there is no means by which Ireland can be forced to do anything in the defence and military area that it doesn't want to do.
The main issues that has arisen will be solved with this referendum. Say our neutrality is safe and that the military dimension focuses mostly on solidarity between members, encouraging conflict resolution globally. Do you think this is the case?
No, I mean, first of all, the yes side talk about neutrality is protected, but there's no clear definition of what neutrality actually means. And they say that we won't join a common defence. But as Tony Gregory discovered when he asked a question in the Dáil there a couple of weeks ago, they've no clear definition of what a common defence is. So they're telling us we're not going to join something that they don't really know what it is. All you have to do is actually look at the treaty. There are key issues within this treaty that are clearly showing that the EU is moving more and more to a much more military body. You have, first of all, you have the mutual defence clause, which is very similar to the mutual defence clause in NATO. And while our governors say, oh, well, we won't be party of that, there's no opt-out for us, there's no protocol to say that we don't take part in it. And it also begs the question, if, for example, it's irrelevant to the NATO countries, why do you need a mutual defence clause within this treaty? Because the NATO countries already have their own mutual defence clause within the NATO treaty. You have a solidarity clause. You also have the expansion of the Petersburg tasks, which is the what defines EU military missions, and that expands quite a lot in relation to protecting the member states from terrorist attack and also possible suspected terrorist attack, which leaves the door wide open for in the future the possible military action against some country that you think may be going to attack you, carry out a terrorist attack. So it really begs the question, like, how much of a blank check are we given to the EU? You have the structured cooperation provisions, which already Germany, France, Britain, Italy and a number of the big, more military, powerful and ambitious countries in Europe are waiting until the treaty, they've already declared this publicly, they're waiting until the treaty is ratified to forge ahead with a big military machine and a big military force using structured cooperation, and they will be able to act on behalf of the whole of the EU, and that's been made clear in the Forum on Europe's booklet. They will be acting on behalf of the EU, but that Ireland will not have a vote within it, because unless they're participating in it. So they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. You also have the commitment for Ireland and all member states to increase their military capabilities. Now that means increased military spending. And the most worrying aspect of this for me is the inclusion in the treaty of the European Defence Agency. Because during my 10 years in the European Parliament, I watched the growth of this agency and how it came about and was formulated. And it started through the lobbying by the European arms industries with the European Commission to have an agency established to boost the EU arms industries in Europe so they could compete at a global level. Now, this agency has now been established, called the European Defence Agency. And considering that it was set up at the behest of the arms industries and they are behind it, it's given the role within this treaty of actually assessing member states' contributions to increase their military capabilities. It's also given a key role in relation to defining military capability for the EU. So you have the arms industries calling the shots in relation to how the EU will military spend and how member states will do that. I mean, anyone concerned about the issue of militarisation and boosting the arms industries and further research and development, which is a huge EU budget for, going into the European Defence Agency, have to ask the question, like, is this the world want to move forward in the future? For any of the people yes side to say there's nothing in this treaty that further militarise the EU, either need glasses or need to go back actually look at the treaty, considering they haven't read it themselves, although it's not surprising they're saying this because they don't know what they're actually asking them.
But there are actually those in this camp who think, and actually just citizens within Ireland who feel that actually a strengthened military could be a good thing for the EU, just with the sort of the global issues that we presently see around.
Well, with the global issues that we see around, there is already a body there called the United Nations. That's actually the body that should be dealing with these issues. And it's interesting to see that within the Lisbon Treaty there is no requirement for a UN mandate for EU military actions, which leaves the door wide open, and I think it's really worrying as to what the EU will do in the future. You also have to look at the aims and objectives behind any military action, because considering with climate change and access to resources and energy resources and that, what kind of objectives and what are the aims of this new military power within Europe, and what's it going to be used for? Is it going to be used for the betterment of mankind? If so, why in heaven's name are we actually giving the European arms industries such an influence within the European Union and within spending? It's clearly geared, there's a number of industries very happy with this treaty. The arms industries in particular and the nuclear industries, because they see provisions within this treaty to increase their own activities.